Hi, editing Noah here. So this video is extremely delayed. I'm very sorry. This was supposed to be out 5 months ago. I filmed this all the way back in January, I believe, the second week of January. So yeah, I've just been, busy, and honestly, it's mostly that and motivation. I don't have the motivation to edit videos anymore. It takes a lot for me to to just pluck up the energy to edit something these days. I can't really. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry this is so delayed. So a lot of the things that I talk about in this video are extremely dated. So by the time this video goes out, so that's that. It's currently the 14th of May. So at the time of recording. So yeah, like I said, this was supposed to be out 5 months ago. And I'm just now getting around to editing this video. I deeply apologize. So please don't be too hard on me if I mention something that has already been addressed in the last 5 months. So yeah, that's just wanted to point that out. Anyways, please enjoy. If not, I'm sorry. There's other channels out there. But yeah, let's just get back into the video. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we have what is going to be the final Hattons trunk haul. A little bit earlier than anticipated, honestly. So yeah, if you've been living under a rock, Hattons is closing. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just woke up one day and yeah, got the email saying Hattons was closing down. I don't know what the reason is. I don't want to get into it, even if there is a reason. But yeah, it's a massive shock, honestly. It shook me to my core. I was not expecting that. Honestly, out of all the retailers, Hattons out of all of them. Yeah, I'm in disbelief at the moment. It really, again, I don't know what it was. It kind of felt like things were decent. I wouldn't say they were good, but it really did feel like things were okay at the moment, at least at the time. Because you had the all their Hattons projects that were going on. I don't know what's going to happen with those because I have a bunch of those on order. So at the time of filming, I don't know what's going to happen to those. I don't know if they're going to sell off the tooling or if they're still going to go ahead with it. Yeah, just wow, Hattons is closing. Wow. As you can see, I'm at a loss for words. It's been a couple weeks and it's already, yeah, I'm not over it. But yeah, so we have the final trunk haul. This is not the largest box I've ever received from Hattons, but it will unfortunately be the last box I will ever receive from Hattons. And what better way than good old DHL. I say good, as you can see it's completely wrapped up in tape, so I have no idea what happened during shipping. But I would like to personally thank Hattons for, the models that I've bought from them over the last couple of years, especially these last 4 years where I've started purchasing stuff from them again. And honestly, on behalf of a lot of overseas customers, thank you so much for the trunk system, because honestly, this box would be a lot smaller, and so will my collection. So I really hope the retailers, be it Rails, TMC, Kurno, literally anybody, I really hope they pick that up in the future, because I think that was a really good move from Hattons. That was probably one of the best things from them honestly in a really long time. And still, Hattons is closing. I can't believe it, because I remember being 12 or something, almost a decade ago, back when Hattons website was known as eHattons, I think, And I remember just going down the list of all the Hornby and Bachmann locomotives. Especially, I still remember seeing Evening Star, a Bachmann Evening Star, for 80 quid. And now they're like twice as much. So, yeah, like, Hattons, just thank you for everything, really. Yeah, so I'll reiterate that again later on in the video, towards the end of the video, because I don't want this introduction to be too long, even though it probably already is. But yeah, I've gotten several stuff, not as much as I would have liked, because they did say I had to. I think they said that they needed all the trunks to be shipped out by, what was it, like the like the end of the month or something like that. So by the time this video goes up, Hattons will probably have like completely shut down entirely. They'll completely close the doors. God knows what's happening to their originals, the Andrew Barclays, the P classes, the Genesis coaches. God knows what's happening to those, because I think those were already in production, and if I'm not mistaken, those were kind of already on the way. So yeah, don't know. At the time of filming, I really don't know what's going on. So yeah, let's just get into it, shall we? The final Hattons trunk haul. Still can't believe it. Hattons is closing. We'll start off with some coaches first, as I have quite a few wagons, so we'll get these out of the way. I didn't get as many as I would have liked, to be honest. These three were around or just under £25, which is my preferred price range for coaches. I would never spend any more than that on a coach. Although there have been a few exceptions, such as Rapido's dynamometer car, and pretty much anything from a Scale. But yeah, anyways, only 3 this time. 2 Bachmann Mark 1s in Blood and Custard, and 1 Hornby Mark 1 in Southern Green. I'm building up a rake of 6 Blood and Custard Mark 1s, since those are my favorite Mark 1 livery. So these 2 are just the first out of many. Of course, I plan to get more over time, but that is if I can find any at a decent price. And that is my only gripe with Bachmann's Mark 1s, really. They're too expensive, even at secondhand. Especially at secondhand, it feels like at times they're, a little too expensive for what they are, and especially since they're like almost 20 years old at this point. But, despite that, they're still pretty impressive. As usual with Bachmann, the decoration is always quality, and the detail is impressive. But yeah, these are just your average run-of-the-mill Bachmann Mark 1s. Nothing special about them. The packaging was a bit faded though. Not Hattons' fault. The Hornby Mark 1, on the other hand, is a little more interesting, as it's got factory-fitted lights. I can't exactly remember when Hornby did this, but I guess it was another one of those failed experiments from them, as it clearly didn't catch on. Thankfully, you don't need batteries to power the lights, unlike recent attempts at lit coaches from Hornby. Like the Bachmann ones, their decoration is okay in certain places, and the detail, again, is average, I guess. But yeah, so I've talked about this before, but the Hornby Mark 1 is a relic from the design clever phase. But unlike other models from that time period, the Mark 1, in my opinion, is probably one of the better models to come out of that. It does make for a good comparison between this and the Bachmann Mark 1. It is worth noting, though, that the Hornby 1 is lighter than the Bachmann 1. At least with this coach, anyways. Anyways, the lights don't look too bad, honestly. But the brightness could be a little better. It does vary with the power input on the controller. Here you can see them fully lit at 100% in this picture, when compared to around 20 to 30% when paired up with this 94XX from Bachmann. You can barely see them at this setting.
Here's the next station, which is still like a plateau here, you can see. And it's a very pretty area as well. It's just one of the newer, sadly,
The lighting equipment is also visible from the interior if you look hard enough, so that's just one thing to keep in mind. Interesting to see that one of the bogies has pickups instead of both bogies having them. But it's understandable to see why they did that, because, you know, drag and all that. Moving on to wagons, we'll start off with one of the most recent releases from Hornby, and that is the new TTA tanker. This was not something I originally wanted, but after seeing the EP sample, I thought I'd ought to try it out. Miles better than the ancient tooling that's been in the range all these years that we all are very much aware of. I think this was also on the TV show that Hornby did as well, Hornby A Model World, I think it's called. And they said this was done by a new designer, so honestly, well done to them. The underframe detail is pretty impressive. It definitely gives Akira Scale and Rapido a run for their money, I would say. Though, again, with those manufacturers in this area in particular, I don't really see the point of it, but because you're not going to see it. But it's still a pretty nice feature to have. The tempo printed detail looks really good as well, and these walkways and ladders, I believe these are etched pieces because they look really, really good. The wagon also has sprung buffers as well, which I greatly appreciate. And the detail pack includes a pair of air hoses and a tail lamp. I am aware of the Bachmann TTA tanker that was made a while ago, and in typical Bachmann fashion, it is way too expensive. And also I just never really got around to it. So yeah, that's why I never really got one. Also with the fact that I wasn't interested at the time, and it was a long time ago, and my views have since changed. So I think this new Hornby tanker would definitely be a good companion with the Bachmann one, but it does have it beat in a few areas. Next up, we've got some brake vans, because I need some more of those. So here we've got two southern ones from Bachmann. One is a pillbox brake, and the other is the ancient as hell Queen Mary. Now, for the main reason of purchasing the latter, it's because it is the only one that I could find with the large southern lettering, as all the other ones Bachmann have made are either in the later southern livery, BR Gray, bauxite, and various other departmental liveries. It is a quite beefy thing, honestly, despite its age. It comes in at 140 grams. Definitely the heaviest brake van in my collection, and probably the heaviest one on the market, I reckon. The colors are a bit faded, so it is a candidate for weathering. The model shows its age, as I've constantly stated. The model shows its age quite a lot in areas such as the detail being molded, such as all these handrails. Worst of all, I would say that there aren't even any windows in the damn thing, so, yeah, just, okay, that exists. The bogey detail, however, is pretty nice. Interestingly, all the wheels are insulated, or so it seems. Not sure why that is, but it's something I noticed. The pillbox brake van, on the other hand, is a bit more pleasing to the eye, with separately fitted handrails and full coloration. Windows as well, so that's a bonus. It is missing a coupling, but that's not really a big deal for me because I don't use those god-awful tension locks anyway. So yeah, I wanted both of these in Southern Region livery, Southern Railway livery, with the large letters, because I prefer that livery as opposed to the later one, where the letters were shrunken down and tucked away in a corner, just above the numbers. Plus, it grabs your attention, if you get my meaning. The next brake van we have is a 20-ton one from Hornby. I don't think a lot of people are aware that Hornby also produced this type of brake van, and it's actually pretty decent. Unfortunately, they didn't make that many in the usual BR Gray and bauxite liveries. I think they only made one gray and 3 bauxite ones to date, and unfortunately the gray one is weathered, so there's that. Once again, lots of departmental liveries, so if you like colorful brake vans, there you go. I do have one of these in bauxite liveries, one of the 3 bauxite liveried ones, so this one now makes 2. So the reasoning for this is because I want a bit more variation in my brake and my goods trains, so I'm not constantly sticking the same brake van or whatever on, whatever train I'm running. So whether it be, the goods trains or like just stick it at the end of short, coach rake that I have seen some Heritage Railways do lately. Don't know why they do that, but yeah, just a little bit, just a tiny bit more variation and a little bit more realism, honestly. So yeah. In short, just to sum it up, these are just as detailed as the Bachmann ones. I don't have a Bachmann one. Actually, no, I do. I have two. Yeah, but they're like gray. Anyways, they're just as detailed, and they make really good companions, honestly. So I would highly recommend getting them. It's just a shame that they didn't make more in the gray and bauxite liveries. Maybe they will in the future. Who knows? Next up, we have a shock absorbing wagon from Bachmann. I got this largely inspired from the GCR's bauxite rake of wagons because I get a lot of my inspiration from Heritage Railways. So, the Great Central has like the bauxite rake. They're all like brown. If you don't know what bauxite is, it's like a brownish red color. Sometimes it looks more maroon because there were two different shades. If I'm not mistaken, there were like two different shades. There was like a lighter one, like an actual brown shade of bauxite, and then there's like a later one that kind of looks a little reddish. So yeah, just a little tidbit there, especially if you're like painting wagons. It kind of, you might want to do some research on that. So yeah, I don't know what version this one is. I don't know if it's like the earlier or the later one, but like it looks brown, so I'm assuming it's the earlier version. But yeah, so like I said, I take a lot of my inspiration from Heritage Railways. So like the GCR's bauxite rake. I'm also planning on doing a quote-unquote wind cutter rake as well once Scale's 16-ton mineral wagons come out. So there's that. And again, like I said earlier, the blood and custard rake that I'm currently building up, I think I'm going to limit that to like 6 coaches instead of like a full 8. But I can't really remember what inspiration I got that from. I do see like some similar rakes and stuff like on Heritage Railways. It's I definitely didn't get my inspiration from Sappho's Trains. I think that's what they're called, that mainline charter company, the Jeremy Hoskins company that crew operates out of Crew and stuff. It definitely wasn't them, but yeah. So I wanted one of these for a while, and I snapped this up once I got the email notifying me that Hattons had it in stock through their pre-owned section. It's a pretty decent wagon, honestly. It's quite light, but then again, you don't want your wagons to be too heavy, honestly. A neat little feature this thing has is a sheet rod here, which is adjustable, so you can have it either fully up or down or somewhere in between. Something I wish Rapido's wagons had, honestly, instead of it just being, glue it in position and you can't fix it, adjust it in any way, shape, or form. Just a thought, just a little constructive criticism there, Rapido. And speaking of a cure scale, here we come to the final collection of wagons that I got. These obviously are from a cure scale. These are the 21-ton mineral wagons. Don't get me wrong, a cure scale wagons are fantastic. I just wish there was an option of purchasing a wagon on its own, instead of a triple pack. That's my only issue with them, really. I get it that people like to build up rakes and stuff. That's why a cure scale they always do triple packs of wagons. It is kind of frustrating, honestly. But I mean, like, for someone like me who just wants one, dude, I just want one, man. What am I gonna do with the other two? I mean, yeah, I know I could build, just buy a Parkside kit and just build that instead if I really wanted one. But honestly, it would not be anywhere near the quality as a cure scales, to be honest. So there's that. But yeah, in the typical cure scale way, the detail on these is absolutely fantastic. All 3 wagons are individually numbered and have a few little additional bits of decoration for the added individuality. God, I cannot say that word. The detail pack consists of additional brake gear and vacuum pipes. Sprung buffers and instanter couplings are also major features. So now, you got my full attention. At the time I bought these were selling fast, so I wasn't sure which pack to get, so I literally just eeny, meeny, miny mode and just picked a random one. So this is the one I got stuck with. So this is the second run. I believe there were some changes from the first run. I know the first run had some slight issues. I don't exactly remember what they were. If I come across and if I somehow remember, I'll put like an annotation somewhere. But yeah, if you haven't already, I would highly recommend you get some Akira scale wagons. You would not be disappointed. Yes, I know they're expensive. Yes, I know they come in triple packs, and it is very frustrating that they do come in triple packs. But honestly, you will not be disappointed. They are probably one of the best wagons I've seen in a really long time. And yeah, I just can't really recommend them enough. So, also, Akira Scale are probably the only manufacturer I know who will give you a brief history leaflet on whatever wagon you purchase. So, I know they mainly specialize in modern image, so if you want to learn about some more modern image stuff, I guess. But yeah, like you can read through that like on your spare time if you want to, if you're like really interested. But yeah, like I said, I've got like 3 packs of the 16-ton mineral wagons on order. So like I'm building up a quote-unquote mini wind cutter rake, if you will. So I'm really looking forward to getting those when the time comes. So now we move on from rolling stock to some of the locomotives that I've bought, and we'll start off with the Bachmann Ivet 4MT. I got this during the pre-owned sale they had a few months ago, and it's in pretty decent condition. It is a bit dusty and will need a bit of a clean before I do anything to it, though. It also doesn't seem to have a detail pack because I've looked everywhere, and yeah, so I'll have to source through that. I'll have to get one through Bachmann Spares website. Thank God for them. These are pretty decent models, to be honest, but as is the case with the majority of Bachmann's Steam range, it is a bit dated. I believe these first came out in 2007, not around that time, probably. I'm going to have to go check, so I'll put an annotation up. But for tooling that is well over 10 years old, it is very evident with the molded smokebox dart, the lack of tender pickups and painted cab interior, and the annoying placement of the DCC socket being the main factors of that. Decoration is fantastic as always with Bachmann. The only omission is the builder's plate, but that is a common issue with all of the Ivet 4MT models that they've made to date, to be honest. So you can easily go get like an etched like equivalent or something, which is honestly what I'm going to do. Basic features include sprung buffers on the front and the rear, NAM couplings, of course, and a removable coal load. The coal load itself is plastic, and it looks okay. It's not too jarring like on some of the more modern depictions of coal loads from Bachmann that are like made out of die-cast. The performance is adequate and suits my needs. I'm not one who cares too much about mechanisms, really. As long as a loco works and does so properly without much trouble, I'm satisfied. That's the way it should be. Next up, we've got another standard 2MT. Unfortunately, Hattons never received the plain green 2MT, which I also had on order, so I'll get that one elsewhere at a later date, as I'm not too fussed about it at the moment. Unlike the other model I featured on here, the quality on this one is lacking, with gluey fingerprints visible in various places, especially on the smoke box. And one of the coupling rods was bent, so that was fun. On the other hand, running quality is great, just like the other one I've shown on here earlier. The only thing I forgot to mention in the previous video discussing this model was the speedo cable is attached to the chassis and not to the loco body, which is a massive bonus in my book. Saves me the job of unscrewing the crank pin and screwing it back in each time I take the body off, unlike other models which have this feature. Still a fragile little thing though, so it will break if too much pressure is applied. So the plan with this one is to turn it into 78019, which won't be a simple renumbering, as I am also intending on modeling the flush-sided tender that the prototype has, so that'll be fun. That'll most likely result in the tender being repainted when that's complete, so I've got that to look forward to. At least the axle boxes are painted, so I don't have to bother with making those, unlike on the other model. I'm not going to be starting that project though immediately, as I have several others ahead of it in the queue, so I'll get to it eventually. Finally, we get onto something quite special, and that is a Hornby Dublo, still don't know how to pronounce that correctly, Great Gathering A4. This one is Bittern, which honestly was the one I was most concerned about in terms of modeling. So let me explain. I can buy the recent BR Green A4 and renumber and rename it to Union of South Africa, so that model isn't really much of a concern for me. BR Blue, on the other hand, could be a bit more of a challenge, as most of the BR Blue A4s Hornby has done don't have cord or tenders, so Sir Nigel Gresley at the moment is a maybe, unless something else comes along. The models of numbers 8 and 10 don't seem to be going anywhere fast at the moment, so I can buy those at my leisure. I have plenty of time to do that. I already have Mallard, and like its real-life counterpart, it doesn't work. Don't ask me why, that's just how it came. Brand new and essentially dead on arrival. Honestly, I'm tired of attempting to fix it, because it can't go 10 minutes without seizing up and making a racket, so that's that one. Hasn't even been fully run in, obviously, so it seems to be a motor issue. I still don't know what the actual problem is, but I guess it could be loose on its cradle, like the support bracket that the motor sits on, because I've noticed it. I'll put up a video. The motor kind of tends to jolt forward and backwards depending on which direction I set it in. So yeah, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know. I don't care anymore. I'm tired of this thing. It's a headache, and it's going to stay in its box from now on. So now we come to Bittern. Making a model of this loco was the greatest concern, as I can't buy enamel paint from Phoenix Precision or Railmatch, and Railmatch don't have it in their acrylic range. Nor could I find anything that matches Garter Blues to use to repaint a cord or tender to pair it up next to a Garter Blue A4. Enter the new Hornby Dublo model. Granted, I could have bought one of the original models from the original run back in, what was it, like 2010? No, not 2010, 2013, duh. Could have bought one of those models, but honestly, I really didn't want to fight with the plug of annoyance, as, you know, every time I want to run the model, I have to constantly unplug it, plug it back in, take the plug back out, you know, that horrible deal. So really didn't want to deal with that. Like I said, this isn't the first time Hornby did the Great Gathering collection, as they have done it way back in 2013 and 2014 with the Great Goodbye. Strangely, they didn't follow up with the Great Goodbye collection for the 2024 announcements, but seeing as the Great Gathering models at the moment are still available, and they don't seem to be going anywhere, except for Sir Nigel Gresley, which was sold out immediately, I can honestly see why. So Hattons had a few of these in stock somehow, and without hesitation I snapped one up. And when I checked back later that day, they were all gone. So I'm glad I bought it when I did. And also I got it slightly cheaper too, where I think at the RRP, if I was to buy it from Hornby directly, it would have been like £320, where I got it from Hattons for about $240. That's with VAT deducted, so that's actually around, I think like the price was $280, somewhere around there. So it was deducted, still expensive, but deducted. So it comes in this pretty stylish box, as you can see, and admittedly the clamshell container was a bit difficult to remove the foam, because it was like jammed in there. So we eventually managed in the end. The model itself is in near perfect condition, which seems to be a lot to ask from these days, especially from Hornby. The only issue I've spotted is a black speck on the fireman side of the boiler, so I don't know. I don't know if that was like excess paint, so I'll remove that somehow. Maybe, maybe not. Still, I don't know. Speaking of paint, the model has the trademark ultra flat Hornby finish. Nothing that a bit of weathering and a gloss varnish can't fix. Apart from that, it has the usual standard features such as sprung buffers, painted cab interior, crisp tempo printed details, just to name a few. I am pleased to see that Hornby have added the black paint at the top of the tender, something that was neglected on the previous A4 models, and especially the preserved Dublo Scotsman models, especially the as preserved Brunswick Green model, as I've stated on the video in the past. I will link that somewhere. Maybe I'll put it up in annotation, we'll see. One thing I have noticed, and I really don't understand why, but both the Hornby Dublo A4s and the recent batch in the main range are fitted with two styles of speedometers. One on the fireman side is the LNER style one, and the driver side has the BR style one. The former definitely should not be present on one of the BR Green A4s, and the rest of the Dublo A4s, especially the preserved ones. And that, I think, should only be present on the Mallard and the two Coronation A4s, because it is authentic, and as far as I know. To make things even more frustrating, Hornby has done the exact same thing, but in the opposite, with the 85th anniversary Mallard. So that model has a BR style speedometer, which it should not have, because the real Mallard currently definitely does not have that. It has the LNR style one. So yeah, a silly thing to get hung up on, you might think, but Hornby has honestly never done this in the past, so I thought it was just something worth pointing out, and I really don't know how that got out of the factory. So yeah, just something I thought I'd point out. I thought it was interesting, something to take note of. And yes, I did check prototype pictures very, very thoroughly. Also, both Hornby Dublo and the main range A4s, the new batch, all come with the new plug-and-play style connection. As much as I like this tender connection style, it has some issues lately. A lot of people have been reporting the copper contacts on the inside of the tender's connector are breaking, and it's causing the model not to run. So Hornby, I have seen, especially on RM Web, that Hornby will send out a replacement if you get in touch. But so for this video and for future references only, from here on out, this model will permanently stay connected. I will never take these apart for fear of that happening. The performance is miles better than my other A4 in the sense that it actually works, so I'm satisfied with that. As much as I nag on Hornby, mostly due to experiences, and also the fact that they kind of sort of deserve it sometimes, their A4s, they're the best out there, honestly. And these have been around since like the early 2000s. I can't exactly remember when they came out. I want to say probably 2005. That could be a little early, but somewhere around there. Definitely early 2000s. They still look good to this day. There have been a few contenders to, rival that claim, such as Dapple's ill-fated Black Label A4s, which were okay, apart from, the DCC technical guru mumbo-jumbo nonsense that caused the models not to work properly. I think if Dapple were to re-release those again, they just do away with all the DCC nonsense. I think they'd be a real pretty good contender, in my opinion. And then there's the Golden Age models A4s. The latter, I've been dying to get my hands on one of those for a very long time, and I can never find one. I know they do one in 00. I'll have a video on one eventually. So if I can find one, you bet your bottom dollar I'm gonna make a video on that, because those things are extremely rare. And Golden Age Models is one of the few ready-to-run brass manufacturers of UK locomotives out there, so, definitely going to get that video out there if I get a hold of one. So, as they say, watch this space. As for the other A4 on the market, oh god, that thing. Yeah, don't touch that with a 39.5 foot pole. Avoid at all costs. I really hope that model never sees the light of day again, and I hope it stays in the past where it belongs. Please don't ever bring it back. And here we have something quite interesting, at least to me, and that is a train pack. This is the first Hornby train pack I have ever bought. I do have a Bachmann train pack, which is the Shakespeare Express one. I got that a long time ago from Amazon at a really cheap price. I think it was like $134. So, yeah, I don't know how, I don't know why, but I just stumbled across it and just snapped it up along with four other locomotives. So there's that. That's the story on that. Anyways, back to the Hornby train pack. This is the Duchess at Carlisle train pack, which was a part of the Barry J. Freeman collection. And it was this and several other train packs that made up this collection. I know there was one with a castle and an A4, but I can't remember the others. So I'll probably link those if I can. As you can see, this pack comes with 6233 Duchess of Sutherland with 3 LMS Stanier Period 3 coaches. So I was killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. I wanted Duchess of Sutherland and LMS Crimson, but I wasn't too keen on hacking away at the recently tooled model in order to do so. And I also wanted the LMS Period 3 coaches, as I've been after them for a very long time, and I obtained a full break coach some time ago. Plus, it was at a decent price as well, so it was a win-win in a way. So it comes in the old polystyrene packaging, which was the norm at the time, and kind of still is, I think, at least with the HST train packs, if you can afford one, that is. Anyways, this is a limited edition, so you get a certificate, of course. So this one is 122 out of 1,000, so that's cool, I suppose. You also get a neat painting of, Duchess of Sutherland at Carlisle Station, which is really nice. All of the train packs come with some of the Barry J. Freeman's pieces, which adds a little bit of sentimental value to them, in my opinion. I kind of wish all other train packs did this. The painting is tucked away in a little compartment underneath the packaging, by the way. I might frame this up and hang it up. Don't know. And here we have the star of the show, 6233 Duchess of Sutherland. Now, as stated before, this is the old tooling, but not the X-tender-driven tooling that came out before this. Hornby have done 6223 quite a few times in the past using the older X-tender drive tooling, and they've done her using this tooling in Björk Green during 2014 to 15, I think. The livery she was in at the time before going into overhaul, and LMS Post-War Lime Black. A very underrated livery in my opinion, and one that I would like to see her in again in the future. So yeah, naturally I didn't want to mess around with the old crusty X tender driven tooling with the annoying rear pony truck that actually operates and kind of ruins the look of the locomotive in my opinion. So this was the next best thing. Another reason why I went for this version is the socket is in the tender where it belongs, hence the plug of annoyance. It also doesn't have that god-awful rear pony truck that I mentioned, so, added bonus. To be fair to this tooling, it does hold its own against the recent retooled version of the Duchess somewhat. If you are looking for a Duchess and can't tell the difference between the two, one thing that does give this away is the rather large lumpy coal load, which is a part of the tender molding, so there's no inside coal space modeled, unfortunately. And also, this rather large excuse for a bogie. Several LMS models from the early 2000s had this type of, the less we talk about it, the better type of, bogie. It's not the best, really. And It's not very convincing, as you can see, and it also has far too much play, which is why I'll be making a new one for it. The replacement bogie is by Comet Models, and you can get this from Wizard Models, who have a plethora of bits and pieces, from miscellaneous scenery items like chairs and milk churns for, your added scenery, little things around the layout, to bits for locomotives and rolling stock, to various kits of coaches and wagons. They are more well known for their stock of Comet Model chassis for various ready-to-run locomotives, as well as stocking numerous wheels from Allen Gibson and Markets, although honestly they are almost always out of Market wheels, honestly, so it's kind of a lucky dip with them. A word of warning though to overseas customers like myself, the shipping price is a bit much, but I understand why it is the way it is. Anyway, back to the model. It is rather light. It might just be me being used to the new tooled version, but yeah, it's not Black 5 light where it's, light as a feather, but it is noticeable when you pick up the loco. The cab detail is present, and it's not painted, unfortunately. For now, at least. I will look at adding a fall plate, as that is a very glaring omission. I gave it a brief test simply to see if it worked, and it was a bit reluctant to start at first, but it is pretty smooth and kinda quiet. So yeah, I'll give it a light servicing maybe at some point, but there is just the tiniest bit of motor noise. It's not like obnoxious or anything. Also, I immediately fixed the eccentric rod / crank rotation, as that is my biggest pet peeve with Hornby locos. I absolutely cannot stand not seeing it operate like it does on the real things. Now we move on to the coaches. So the coaches honestly are in kind of a worse condition than the locomotive. They have seen some use. So they are missing bits and pieces, as you can see by these pictures. But all but the first class coach are missing their door handles. So that's something. Oh well, I guess I'll have to source some replacements if I can find any. Apart from the missing door handles, they do look okay. These are what we call premium Hornby coaches, as the railroad equivalents were around at the same time as these were, being developed and drawn up and released in some, So to distinguish between the two, one has better detail and the other one barely has any. That's all you need to know. A feature of the premium coaches, apart from the, much improved, better quality decoration and detailing, were the sprung buffers, a much appreciated feature coming from someone who uses proper couplings. The decoration is really impressive, honestly. These are probably one of the best Hornby coaches I've seen in a very long time. Again, going back to the premium factor, these are rather impressive. Yes, they are expensive on their own, but they are very impressive in my opinion. I mean, just look at the detail on this first class coach here. It really lives up to its name. Look at all that printed detail and all those curtains that are printed onto the glazing. It is absolutely amazing. The only thing these coaches are missing is lighting, to be honest. That would be chef's kiss. They do have a bit of heft to them as well. Like the Bachmann Mark 1s, they have kinematic couplings, which I honestly have mixed feelings about, as stated earlier. Alright, so that is the final trunk haul from Hattons, and also the final package I will ever receive from them. once again, it is a real shame that they've had to close. They've been extremely useful in me building up my UK collection all these years, and honestly, they will be deeply missed, not just by myself, but also the entire model railway community. I honestly wish those who worked there best of luck in the future, be it, life or, getting another job at like another retailer. Just, I wish them the best of luck, really. This wasn't my most expensive haul, as I may or may not have stated earlier, but it definitely was up there. I really do hope another retailer picks up the idea of the trunk, as that was probably the most useful feature out of all of. It's hard to describe. It's really hard to describe it. See, I'm trying to. Hard to get words out. It's. I just can't believe it, man. But yeah, it's the Hattons trunk. I really hope another retailer comes and picks that idea up, because that was probably one of the best ideas Hattons has ever had, and it was extremely useful for overseas customers like myself, because we got to pay a little extra for more. We got to, it ain't easy for us, so not like you guys over there. So we got to pay a little extra if we want these models, or just anything in general, which kind of sucks, but that's that. Right, so I guess that is all I have for you today. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.